A very good morning to one and all present here. Myself, Dr. Abhinay Agarwal, first year PG scholar of Rog Nidan Department at Parul Institute of Ayurveda. I feel privileged to welcome you all to the PhD Scholar webinar series organized by Department of PG and PhD Studies in Rog Nidan PIU. From today, that's from 11th of October 2021 to 11th April 2022, we will be arranging the webinar series on various topics by PhD scholar of Rog Nidana department. I bet it will surely be very informative for all of us who are seeker for knowledge. So now I would like to request Dr. Sunil Khandare sir, who is the senior professor, guide and ex-HOD of Rog Nidan department to address the webinar. Sir, please.
Thank you, Dr. Abhinay. Good morning, one and all. First of all, I congratulate our respected Dean, Dr. Hemant Toshikhane sir, and management of Parul University for giving such a wonderful platform to our PhD scholars. Day before, I was asked by Dr. Harshita Dhalekar Madam, coordinator Rognidan PhD Scholar webinar, to do a speech. I feel excited as I am to be part of this great moment. Because since last 2 years, I had attended lots of webinars, but this webinar series is by PhD scholars to PhD scholars and whole intellectual world of Ayurveda. So it becomes special for us. Hope you all PhD scholars will do it as ultimate. I would like to draw your attention that main objective of this webinar series is to update knowledge of PhD scholars along with to enhance the teaching skills. My first job as your speaker is to illustrate that Rognidam subject is the forebrain, that is think tank of Ayurveda science, because all mechanisms of Ayurveda vehicle are described only under Rognidam curriculum. So, without understanding them, Ayurveda could not run or re-establish. Hence, I want you all to stay true to the most real, most sincere, most authentic parts of yourself and trust yourself to chart your own course and make your mark on life of science. Second, I would like to draw your attention for a few minutes to share with you how important these webinars are. Because with this, we can communicate with intellectual and scientific community of world. As you know, communication is a vital part of our everyday life. Without being able to communicate with each other, these there will be only a chaos. With this word, and giving my best wishes to one and all PhD scholars, I conclude my speech. Thank you, organizing committee, and thank you, Abhinay, for giving me this. Thank you.
Uh,
Over to Abhinay.
Thank you so much, sir, for your encouraging words. Now, I would like to request all the attendees of the webinar to write their names with designation in the chat box. Now, for the very first session of this webinar series, I would like to introduce Dr. Sachin Deva, sir, who is Associate Professor and HOD of Rog Nidan Department at PIU. Sir has completed his BMS from SDM Ayurveda College, Hassan, Karnataka, and completed his PG from SDM Ayurveda College, Udupi, Karnataka. Currently, he is pursuing his PhD in Parul Institute of Ayurveda, Gujarat. Sir has more than 9 years of UG and PG teaching experience. He has worked as an assistant professor and diagnostic block in charge at SDM Ayurveda College, Hassan, Karnataka, for more than 4 years. Also, he is in the committee of Board of Research Studies and member of CR4D at PIA. In addition to this, he is biannual Ayurveda news bulletin editor of Ayurdeep and also editor of bi-monthly Ayurveda key activity report. In his research activities, he is working as a mentor on SOIC project funded by the government of Gujarat on herbal mask, a medicated PPE. He is also working on the IMR project at PU on a randomized open-labeled clinical study to evaluate the efficacy of menthol herb lotion in the effective management of urticaria. He is also working on a project of COVID-19 shortlisted for oral presentation by GSBTM on open label standard controlled randomized evolution of SHBK tablet in prevention of COVID-19 respiratory complications. Sir has lot of award and achievement under his career. He got an academic and research performance award by PU 2021. He has been awarded for the best paper in international conferences for 3 times and also awarded for the best case presenter conducted by RAV New Delhi. Sir has done more than 25 paper presentations in various international and national conferences. Sir has also published more than 30 articles including Scopus and Web of Science like Index Journal. Last but not least, he has guided more than 10 Rognadan postgraduate scholars and also delivered several guest talks as a resource person. Now sir will be presenting his topic. Please, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Abhinay, and thank you, Dr. Vishita Madam and Sunil sir for arranging this kind of webinar for PhD scholars. So, being a scholar of PhD, the topic which I am going to present is something related to Agni and Annavasrutas. So I'll be sharing the slides. I hope it is visible. Just a minute. Is it visible now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the topic what I have selected for this webinar is a concept of Agni in relation to Jataragni and symptomatology of Annavasruta. So we know very well that any substance that can be digested, assimilated, and metabolized by human being to give energy and build the tissues is known as ahara. Literally, Agni means fire, and it is named so because it digests the food similar to fire, which cooks the food in the kitchen. So that's why it is considered so. And we know very well what is the classification of Agni, what are the types of Agni. Charaka mentioned basically 3 types of Agni: Pachakagni, Bhutagni, and Dhatwagni, where Pachakagni can be a digestive enzymes and hormones. Bhutagni and Dhatwagni can be considered as a catabolic and anabolic enzymes and the hormones. And it is of 13 types, which we already know it: Pachakagni or Jhataragni, which is of 1 type, Bhutagni 5, and Dhatwagni, which is of 7 types. So these are the 13 varieties of Agni. So to introduce related to the topic specific, Agni, according to Shabdakalpa Druma, it is told that Yada Angati Urdhvam Gacchati. So one which travels in an upward direction. So the Mahabhutas which are involved here are Vayu and Tejo Mahabhuta. So one which travels in upward direction is considered as Agni according to Shabdakalpa Druma with the dominant 2 Mahabhutas. The theories of digestion and metabolism in Ayurveda are based on the concept of Pitta. So which I already mentioned, it can be Pachakagni, Bhutagni, and Dhatwagni. Whether the screen has changed? Can anyone respond? Dr. Abhinay, Whether the screen is getting changed?
No, sir.
Just a minute. Just a minute.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now it's changing.
Changing.
Yeah, it was changing.
Just a minute.
Yes.
Is it visible now?
Yes, sir. It is visible.
So if I do screen sharing, I think it is not visible. Now is it visible?
Yes, sir. It is visible.
I will just change. You just tell me whether it is changing or not. Now is it changed?
No, sir.
No, right? Okay, I got it.
Yes, sir.
Got it. Is it fine now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the theories of digestion and metabolism in Ayurveda, it is basically based on the concept of Pitta. So Pitta is responsible for the generation of heat, which is called as tapsantape, and burning the food which is ingested, that is tapdahe. So Pitta is comparable to Agni or fire, as the actions it performs in the living body resemble those of a fire or Agni. That is two important functions. One is Pachana and one is Dahana. So two important functions of Pitta. So it is for this reason that Charaka seems to have expressed the view that Agni in the body is implicit in Pitta. So what is the reference we get here? There is one particular thing, Agni Reva Sharire Pitta Antargataha. Sushruta has treated the Pitta of the body and Agni as identical in Sutrasthana. The quotation goes like this: Atra Jijnasyam Kim Pitta Vyatireka Anyo Agni. This is a question. And one more is Ahos with Pittameva Agni Riti. Atra Uchyate, and he explains Na Kalu Pitta Vyatirekat Anyo Agni Rupalabhyate आग्नेयत्वात् पित्ते दहन पाचनादिषु अभिप्रवर्तमाने अग्नि अग्निवत् उपचारः क्रियते अंतराग्निरिति क्षीणे हि अग्निगुणे तत् समानद्रव्य उपयोगात् अतिवृद्धे शीतक्रियोपयोगात् आगमाच्च पश्यामो न खलु पित्तव्यतिरेकात् अन्यो अग्निरिति. So he clarifies again by telling that Agni as well as Pitta are not two different entities. It is embedded with each other. It moves as same. So this is an understanding related to the concept here. So moving further, Chakrapani Datta, while commenting on Charaka's view, clarified the implications of the term Agni used in a context of description of the properties and functions of Pitta as well. He observes the term Pittantar Gataha does not mean that Pitta is simply a flaming fire. It only refers to the phenomenon of heat associated with Pitta. So the Ushnata which is present in the Pitta, to highlight this particular point, because it has got two important functions as I already mentioned, as Pitta performs Dahana and Pachana and such other actions like similar to that of Agni. It is spoken as Antaragni. So Antaragni Chikitsa, whatever we are telling, it is nothing but the Chikitsa related to the Pitta as such. It indirectly suggests we are treating the Agni here. Dallan has interpreted the terms Dahana and Pachana as Daha and Paka respectively. Pakaha Parinatau, again in Amarakosha he tells the meaning of that. The term Paka has been defined by Medini as that which causes Parinama, that is conversion. And Also, other author called it as paravritti or mutation. So, as we already mentioned, the conversion, different kinds of activities which are happening during the process of digestion, everything depends on the pitta itself, or the agni which is there in the body. All changes at the macroscopic, microscopic, inorganic, and organic levels are due to this particular paka. Now, Agni in this view is the power which is responsible for bringing about the breakdown and synthesis of the substance. That's why I already mentioned you the different roles of Pachakagni, Bhutagni, and Dhatwagni. It can be a digestive enzymes and hormones, catabolic or anabolic enzymes and hormones. So everything, whatever is taking place during the process of Avastha Paka or during the process of different phases of digestion, it is due to the influence of Pitta. So Pitta, which is of 5 types, this is well known: Sadhaka, Prajaka, Ranjaka, Alochaka, and Pachaka. And Pachaka Pitta known variously as Antaragni, Thayagni, as well as Jataragni. So these are the three important synonyms which we can tell of the Pachaka Pitta. Okay, Pachaka Pitta is important from the point of digestion and metabolism. Koshtagni, also known as Jataragni and Pachakagni, is the Pachaka Pitta in its material form. Now it digests the food, separates the Sara and Pitta from it. The Sarabhaga, known as Ahara Rasa, gets absorbed in Antra and undergoes further transformation to become Rasadi Dhatus. This is very well known. Different kinds of phases which are attained are due to the Koshtagni itself. Now the concept of Pachaka Pitta, that is Jatragni, Kayagni, and Antaragni, is of fundamental importance, especially when studied in the light of some of the more recent developments in the field of enzymology. So Charaka has envisaged this concept in very general terms as follows: Annasya pakta sarvesham paktanam adhipo matah tanmulastahi tadvruddhi kshaya vruddhi kshayatmakah. Koshtagni is the leader of all of factors concerned with the digestion in the body. All these factors are derived from it, and their activities may be normal or abnormal, are dependent upon an increase or decrease as the case may be of Jataragni. Charaka also mentions that the seat of Agni is in the region above the Nabi, and this is very well known as Grahani because it receives and retains the food for the duration and its digestion. The structure Grahani is supported by Agni. It retains the food which is still to be digested, while the digested portion of it is moved down in the Pakvashaya on either side. Now, what are these? We will see it later. Vagbhata mentions Vriddhi and Kshaya of the Dhatus occur according to the aspects of Pachaka Pitta present in them, which may be Tikshna or Manda respectively. So, based on the Ahara or Vihara or any other Manasika factors as a Nidana, what we consume or we come across, this will act as a Nidana for the vitiation of the doshas as such. So, either the Vriddhi of the dosha or due to Vriddhi of dosha, some doshas can get even Kshaya, further leading to Dhatu Dushti, simultaneously vitiating Agni. Either it can be Jataragni, further it can be Dhatwagni, Bhutagni, etc. Causes various kinds of rogas. So, example, as the flame of the forest fire tends to increase or decrease according as the quantity of indhana or fuel available in its proximity, so also in the case of Dhatu Parampara. Example of clinical condition described in Ayurveda as Atyagni or Bhasmaka and Mandagni, which in modern parlance correspond to hyper and hypometabolism respectively. So Tikshnagni can lead to certain set of disorders, Mandagni can lead to certain set of disorders, and different kinds of vitiation of other Agni, like it can be Bhutagni and Dhatu Agni, will cause the effect on its particular site. So मुहुर्मुहुः प्रभूतम् अपि उपयुक्तमानम् अन्नम् आशुकरं पचति पाकान्ते च गलतालु ओष्ठशोषदाः सन्तापात् जनयति. So here the person takes repeatedly a very heavy meals which easily gets digested within a very short span of time, producing symptoms like path throat, etc. Now this we have come across. Maybe the case of hyperthyroidism, very commonly, this is what happens. Now, Charaka adds to this by mentioning that in a person afflicted with Atyagni, the food ingested is digested as rapidly as it is consumed, which means the consumption of the food is also frequency may be more, its digestion is also more. Having thus consumed the food, it also begins to consume the dhatus as rakta, etc. So further what happens, there will be consumption or there will be depletion of the dhatus. So dhatupaka can be a result ultimately. The patient is then afflicted with the debility and diseases that lead to certain kinds of diseases can also cause the death of an individual. He feels satisfied when he has eaten his food but feels faint on the completion of the digestion of food ingested. This is what explained in case of different kinds of lakshana which is told in different pairings. Moving forward, Trishna, Shwasa, Daha, Murcha, etc. Are some of the diseases of Atyagni. Now, Tikshna Grahanena Basmakasya Avarodha Atyanta Tikshnagni Basmaka Ityuchate. Now, what does the clarification is, the condition described above as Atyagni is correlated to hypermetabolism. As I already mentioned, it can be hyper or hypometabolism. Both are possible, and in case of Basmaka, it is definitely hypermetabolic. This condition is marked by a gradual increase of speed up of cellular respiration. So there will be a rapid cellular respiration which is taking place. Usually seen, as I already mentioned, in case of hyperthyroidism. This is a very common condition, so this example is very generally taken, where in spite of glutinous eating, that is, in spite of heavy eating, continuous or increased frequency of food intake, so much of food is burned that the body weight may decrease. The subject will always be under strain and very irritable by the stimuli and yet unable to do the sustained work due to the lack of indhana which is present in the body. Now, you see, the difference is the food is taken, glutinous eating is there, but the functions what the body does is very minimum. So while looking into the person, you may feel that he or she has not consumed food at all. This is what the hypermetabolism and increased cellular respiration will result into. In the same way, Mandagni, comparable to hypometabolism, usually associated with hypothyroidism and Siemens disease. So in this disease, it is stated to be due to the failure of thyrotropic function of pituitary gland, which results in insufficiency of thyroxine availability. So if this is not properly available, then the basal metabolic rate in this condition is seen to be very low. So these all things are explained related to Agni for the reason that Agnim Jarana Shaktya Parikshet. So based on the Jarana Shakti of an individual, we are assessing the Agni in a particular individual. So once we know the different Jarana Shakti or the different avasthas of the Jarana, then we can assess the Agni in him, especially the Jataragni in the initial phase. Now the term Jataragni Paka is the digestion of the food under the influence of Jataragni, which I have already mentioned in all previous slides. Chakrapani Datta quoted Adho Amashaya as the sthana of Jataragni. So Adho Amashaya is the sthana of the Jataragni. He also described this part of Amashaya variously as Agnyashaya and Pachamanashaya, which means the organ of Agni where the food is cooked or digested. This organ is also known as Shudantra and Grahani. The term Jataragni would seem to stand for and comprise several factors. Now, this what I was highlighting before. Enzymes which participate in the digestion of the different components of food in a small intestine. In this sense, Jataragni would represent a complex of substances and not any one substance isolated from others of its kind present in this region of the alimentary canal. So we can't tell that Jataragni is this particular thing only. So it is a conglomeration of different kinds of factors. It is a unit. It is not a single entity. So different mechanisms which are taking place in a Sharira, it comes under the Jataragni. Okay, so this was all about the Jataragni and Agni as such. So I just want to mention here some of the points which are there in case of the digestion. So we know that as soon as the food is taken into the mouth, the secretion of the bodhaka kapha usually starts by the tongue and the salivary glands, which helps in moistening the food and detecting the taste. So bodhaka kapha usually initially plays an important role in moistening and also in the detection of the taste. Simultaneously, the teeth starts chewing or grinding the food, and the tongue helps in pushing the food towards the what esophagus further, and the bolus of this is then pushed into the stomach. Now here the pranavata role will also be definitely there. Then the saliva contains enzyme, we know the ghrelin, which starts digesting the starch in the mouth. So initially the enzymes which is responsible for the digestion of the food, and this ghrelin rich mixed food reaches into the stomach where the further digestion of the carbohydrates takes place. So there will be continuously the glucose which is getting produced till the medium of the content become usually acidic with the help of the gastric secretions. This may take about half an hour, and in Ayurveda this phase can be considered as for initially the Madhuravastha Paka. And as soon as the food arrives into the stomach, we know the Udana Vata stimulates the secretion of the Kledaka Kapha, which includes weak hydrochloric acid. Also, a weak Amla Rasa increases the Kapha here initially. The Kledaka Kapha further liquefies the food. That Dravi Bhuta of the Ahara which we are taking will start taking place, which is then churned by the peristalsis, that is different movements due to the help of Prana, Udana, Samana Vata. So the food is broken down into the Sukshma Bhaga or Sukshma part will take place, and it is made into a homologous mixture. So whole of that will become into a certain mixture, and this facilitates the mixing of enzymes for the better digestion. Pachaka pitta in the stomach contains enzymes pepsin, which digests the proteins to a peptone stage. Renin coagulates the milk, and gastric lipase digests fat, and some for some extent. So these are the different activities in the stomach which are taking place during the process of digestion. So further we are continuing the Annava Srotas. So Annava Srotas, the Moola of that is Annavahanam Srotasam Amasyo Moolam Vamam Cha Parshvam. So Annavahanam Srotasam Amasyo Moolam Vamam Cha Parshvam. Little bit of controversy definitely is there always regarding the Vamam Cha Parshvam. So what we can consider right now, I'm considering it as stomach as well as the end of the transverse colon in the left flank of the abdomen. This is what usually we consider it as. This seems that Annava Srota starts from the stomach and ends at the left side of the abdomen where transverse colon ends, that is Vama Parshva. So what is the Nidana? It's Dushti Nidana. We know this. Atimatrasya cha akale cha ahitasya cha bhojanat annavahini dushyanti vaigunyat pavakasya cha. Along with above Nidanas, Sushruta mentioned Abhigata as also one of the Nidana for Annavaha Srota Dushti. Coming to the Lakshanas, Pradushthanam Kalu Esham Vishesha Vijnanam Bhavati Tadyata Anannabhilasha Arochaka Avipaka Chardincha Drushtva Annavahanyasya Sotamsi Pradushtaniti Vidya. Anannabhilasha, Arochaka, Avipaka and Chard, they are the four basic Lakshanas which are seen in case of Annavaha Srota Dushti. Tatra Viddasya, Sushruta tells, Admana Shula Annadvesha Chardi Pipasa Andhya Maranam Cha. So Andhyatva and Marana are the two important or very major symptoms which are told by Sushruta. So here, according to some authors, Andhya can also be considered as fainting or giddiness. For that also, the Tama Pravesha of an individual can also be considered as, was also considered as Andhya by some authors. So this is what the understanding of Sushruta is. Now, coming to the individual Lakshana, the first one is Anannabhilasha. This may be Sharirika or due to the Manasika factors, because I already mentioned you the Nidanas can vary. It can be Ahara, Viharaja, Panchakarma Apacharaja, Manasika Nidan, anything can be. So it can be Sharirika and Manasika both. Sharika factors include the disease of GI tract and other systemic disorders. It may be due to the organic or functional abnormalities. Disease of Sharira include Jwara Rakta Pitta, etc. We know this, which has got Anannabilasha as one of the symptoms. Disease of GIT in particular include Mukhapaka, Talupaka, disease of esophagus, stomach, different carcinomas, etc. And Manasika factor includes stress, it is Udvega, it can be depression, anxieties, phobias, etc. So any of these can lead to Anannabilasha as one of the symptoms where the nidanas can vary based on ahara, vihara, etc. Anannabilasha is also due to ajirna and prakrita ajirna leading to Anannabilasha, which is usually seen after heavy intake of food. This will remain for certain time, approximately for 3 years, and after the completion of digestion, it manifests lakshanas like hunger, thirst, etc., which we have seen previously. Here, the clinical features of ama like tymphanitis are not seen. Even in rasashesha ajirna, anna vidvesha is the main symptom. Now, it depends upon the quantity and quality of the food intake, age of an individual, prakriti, kala, desha, satmi, etc. All these factors are the contributing for the Anannabilasha. In Dinapaki Ajirna, it is mentioned that digestion will be completed in 1 ahoratri. So here Anna Dvesha will be there for a little prolonged time. Further coming to second Lakshana, that is Arochaka. What does Shabdastomal Nidhi tells about Arochaka is quite interesting here. Satyamapi bubukshaya abhyavarana asamartyam aruchi. Satyamapi bubukshaya abhyavarana asamartyam. So this refers to the disorder of a taste perception where in spite of normal appetite, the person is incapacitated to pursue taste and dislikes to eat the food. Here also the nidanas are quite different. These lakshanas, which are seen in case of Annavasota Dushti, can be the major lakshana of many of the diseases related to Annavasotas. That's why these lakshanas are quite important to understand. So, due to the both Sharika and Manasika Nidanas, as previously mentioned, Dosha Prakopa occurs leading to Pavaka Vaigunya, that is Agni Vaigunya, causing Amutpatti, which is further thrown into circulation, forming Samadosha. The dysfunction of local pranavata, pachakapitta, bodhaka kapha, etc. occurs, and the morbid qualities of pitta and kapha enhance and spread in the body. That is, there will be the sharira, sarpana, and localizes in jivha and amashaya, leading to dosha dusha sammurtana and causing arochaka. Arochaka, I told you this symptom. This particular lakshana can be seen only as lakshana in many disease, or it can be an individual roga also. So as such, arochaka is again of 5 types, or they are mentioning vataja, pittaja, kaphaja, tridosha, and aganta. Further moving with annadvesha, annasya shravana, smarana, darshana, gandha, sparshanahi yat udvijate sa bhaktadvesha. It is purely psychogenic. By looking into the lakshanas, the person develops aversion for food just by hearing, remembering, seeing, etc. There is repulsion for such kind of food. This may be of 2 types, asya vairasya and arasanyata. Now, asya vairasyam uchitat asarasat anyarasa. The bad taste which is expressed in the mouth in spite on absence of any materialistic cause. So there is no proper material cause there, but still there is a bad taste expressed in the mouth. And arasanyata is non-perception of the taste of a food taken into the mouth due to the pranavata and bodhaka kapha vikaras. So even though it is an annava srotas and related nidanas, it does not mean that only the pitta will be involved throughout the lakshanas or a disease. Different other doshas can also be involved based on different avasthas. Now, I am highlighting one particular here, that is Andhyatva again. Now, what is it? Due to the initial lakshanas like Anannabilasha, Arochaka, Chardi, Pipasa, as mentioned by Sushruta, may be due to the Sharika and any Manasika Vyadhis for a very prolonged period of time, chronic phase, leads to the Shoshana of the Sharira due to severe Dhatukshaya leading to the condition compared to murcha. When andhyatva, I told you, certain some people, some authors have considered andhyatva to the murcha or tamodarshan. If this is a condition, then we are very well observing. When the person is maybe doing fasting or not taking food for a very long period of time, there can be this kind of hypovolemia can be there further, and these all things are possible. It is mentioned that kshinasya bahudoshasya, that is person who are already emaciated, we can consider this due to the causes like ananabila sharochaka as a nidana which was mentioned, leading to rasarakta mamsa etc. dhatukshaya. So dhatukshaya is ultimately what happens due to the obstruction in the samnava srotas by the vitiated vatadi doshas. Tamas enhances greatly and destroy the feeling of dukkha as person falls on the ground like a log of wood. This is what mentioned as a lakshana. Now here also the person will fall. So here also there can be a tama pravesha or there can be a murcha which can be seen. It is also mentioned that murcha is one of the upadrava of ajirna. This is very important to note. Murcha is also mentioned as an upadrava in case of ajirna. So annava sroto dushti, the lakshanas and what the Sushruta has mentioned regarding andhyatva, if at all it is murcha, can be correlated in this way. Now, vitamin A in the strictest sense refers to the retinol, and the term retinoids include synthetic molecules that are chemically related to the retinol. So retinaldehyde is the essential form of vitamin A that is required for the normal vision. Now I am talking about the vision of an individual and the blindness what can be taking place. It's not about the murcha now. Liver and fish are excellent food sources for the profound vitamin A, this we know, and carotenoids include dark green and color fruits and vegetables. Now the symptoms of vitamin A deficiency include hyperkeratotic skin lesions and xerophthalmia. Now the second one, xerophthalmia, is an important outcome of vitamin A deficiency. Xerophthalmia, initially it can be dry eye. Further, there can be certain complication will lead to the corneal ulceration, and if untreated, then the cornea will there will be a permanent blindness. Although vitamin A treatment of patients with corneal ulcers can also result in blindness due to permanent corneal scarring. So once there is xerophthalmia due to vitamin A deficiency, there can be blindness. So now here I am talking related to the vision. So andhyatva can be substantiated in many ways. Now one more lakshana, the chardi. This can manifest as a lakshana or as a disease, we know it. And due to the nidanas like atidrava, atisnigdha, akala, atimatra bhojana, and also manasika factors like bhaya, etc. Vata, especially Udana and Gyanavata, gets aggravated and makes upward movement of the doshas, resulting in the expulsion of dosha from the mouth in the form of chardi. In the explanation of Vishtarthajanya chardi, due to coming in contact with unclean, putrid, etc. substances, dushana of manovaha srotas takes place, further leading to the rasavaha sroto dushti and ultimately causing annava sroto dushti leading to chardi. So multiple sroto dushti can also cause this kind of symptoms along with annava sroto dushti. Now vata vaigunya, where vata is, if we consider nervous system, if at all, in this context what I am talking, includes the psychology of an individual. Abnormality of this may initiate vomiting by exaggerated or abnormal reflex action, or in other words, this heading indicates reflex and psychogenic factors of causation of hyperemesis. So manasika factors can also lead to this kind of changes in the sharira, causing the chardi. Vomiting is the oral expulsion of GI content resulting from the contraction of the gut and thoraco-abdominal wall musculature. Now, vomiting is contrasted with regurgitation, the effortless passage of gastric contents into the mouth. Now, vomiting is coordinated by the brainstem and is affected by neuromuscular responses in the gut, pharynx, and thoraco-abdominal wall. Emetic stimuli act at several sites. An emesis provoked by unpleasant thoughts or smells originates in cerebral cortex, whereas cranial nerves mediate vomiting after gag reflex activation. So these are the different understanding related to chardi in manasika factors which are involved. Now further moving to the Admana. Admana, that is glowing, inflation, bloating, puffing, etc., which are mentioned by Monier Williams. स आटोपम अत्युग्र रुजम आत्मानम आत्मातम उदरम वृषम आत्मानम इति तम विद्यात् घोरम वात निरोधय. Now the apana vayu gets obstructed in the udara pradesha leading to atopam, that is atopam gudugudayanam, which we know this. Hence the abdomen gets distended again. So admana and atopa both can be commonly seen together. If the admana occurs in the amashaya due to the vata associated with kapha dosha, then it is called as pratyatmana. Further, admana as a lakshana will be seen different, like udara, vaddakutodara, the different kinds of udara, ashmari, udagatavata, gulma, pururupa, there can be admana, udara again, and vistabdajina. So these are the different conditions where we can see admana. So the basic cause may be something related to the annavasotas. Now, bloating is a sign that food is not being ingested correctly by the body. An inadequate intake of water will cause excessive bloating of the stomach. Fatty foods cause a formation of fat cells to develop throughout the body and contribute to the bloating as well. We also know that simple, that is continuous talking, open mouth, or continuous eating of the chewing gum with open mouth can also lead to the bloating. Further, what can happen? Further, it can also cause annavasroto dushti in the coming phases. So a build-up of fat cells slowly slows down the body's ability to empty the stomach, and dairy products also contribute to the excessive cramps, gas, and bloating. So there are multiple causes for the bloating as such. At the same time, the most common symptom associated with bloating include pain in the abdominal cavity, chest pain, vomiting, diarrhea, etc. Pains that are due to the bloating will feel sharp and cause the cramps in the stomach, and these pains may occur anywhere in the body. Further, we'll move. A person having problem of abdominal bloating, what it can be? Now, it could be many things depending upon the symptoms. If the pain is relieved by eating and appears again several hours later, this is what we usually ask. If so, it might be related to peptic ulcer diseases. Now, the causes for this peptic ulcer basically may be annavasrota dushti in an initial phase, either manasika, either sharirika, any of the nidana. Is the pain relieved by defecation? This is what one more. If the person is having diarrhea or constipation, if so, these features may suggest the IBS. So these all diseases also coming under the influence of annavasrota nidana. Now further moving into the lakshana pipasa. This is usually experienced by an individual after taking spicy and dry food, which we know very well. If we consider pittaja trishna, which manifests due to the aggravation of pitta dosha, due to the agniya quality of pitta, it does the shoshana of the body liquids or fluids and manifest pittaja trishna. Even in namaja trishna, which is caused by ama, is also agneya in nature because of being produced by ama pitta and is characterized by aruchi admana, etc. Increase in the water intake is called as polydipsia again. Now this is one of the important cause which we usually neglect for annavasrota dushti. The excess loss of water decreases water content and increase salt content in the body, and this stimulates the thirst center in the hypothalamus, leading to increased thirst. So increased thirst can also be a cause. Increased intake of water can also be a cause. Now here I am highlighting regarding pipasa. So shula, further, shula here primarily compared to udara shula. It may be due to the recession of vata, tridoshaja, dvandva, etc. Also due to ama, which is produced due to the various kinds of ahara and viharaja nidanas. Symptoms like admana, atopa, etc. will also be seen here. We know this. Bhukte jirati yat shulam tadeva parinamajam, where parinama shula is characterized pain just after the digestion of the food, and jirne jirita jirne va yat shulam upajayate प्रयोगेन भोजनेन च न शमम्यात्. So Annadhrava Shula is characterized by continuous severe pain not subsiding by any methods. So these are the different things related to the Shula as such. So coming to the Marana as a symptom, the death can be the consequence of all the previously mentioned Lakshanas if continued without treating. So simple Nidhana which is causing Aruchi may not be a cause for Marana, but Sushruta has mentioned it as a Viddha Lakshana. So the role of Marmagata contributes, especially Nabhimanma, in the causation of Marana mentioned in the Sroto Viddha Lakshana. Marana due to Annavasutushti can be seen frequently in a condition. For example, if the person is having severe acute gastroenteritis, then okay, currently there may be a certain kind of treatment which is available, but even though there is a treatment available, any kind of prolongation in treating the individual may definitely cause death in such cases. So here, due to the severe vomiting and diarrhea, which is due to Annava Srotodushti, leading to excess Trishna, Udakava Srotodushti, and also Rasava Srotodushti leading to dehydration in severe form, causing death. So, death may be due to hypovolemia or initial severe dehydration leading to the hypovolemia. This can also cause the death. Now, basically, along with Annavasrotas, we can note Udakavasrotas can also be involved. Rasavasrotas can also get depleted. So, Dhatu Dushti, Troto Dushti, Dhatu Kshaya will usually seen. So, to conclude, the Agni and Pitta in the body represents the Tejo Mahabhuta. The condition of vitiated Agni can thus be treated either by Samanya, that is by giving Tejo Mahabhuta predominant food, and drugs in Mandagni, or by Vishesha, that is by giving food and drug which are opposite to Tejo Mahabhuta in case of Tikshna. In Vishamagni, initially Vata is specified, then either Samanya or Vishesha treatment given based on whether there is Mandagni or Tikshna scene respectively. The Jataragni is just a representative of Tejo Mahabhuta, which does the karma of Ahara Pachana. The Agni Mahabhuta has several other roles too in the body other than Bhakti, that is Ushma, Darshana, Varna, etc. Annavastutas is not simply the GIT, it represents the complex neurohumoral regulation of nourishment. So, to conclude, the important thing is Shante Agnomriyate. So, once if Agni is Shanta, or once if the digestion or the Agni is not maintained by or Pitta of an individual is not in a proper form, then definitely it can cause the loss of the life, or it can cause death of an individual. Thank you.
Indeed, it was very insightful lecture on the topic of Agni with special reference to Jatragni. Thank you so much, sir. Now, if anybody have any question or query, so you can ask. I would also like to request all the attendants again, those who have not put their names and designation in the chat box, kindly do the same within a minute. So any question from anyone? So thanks to all the attendees for patiently listening this session. Now, the next session will be on 25th of October 2021 by Dr. Ketki Aurangabadkar, ma'am, on the topic of Viruddh Ahar with special reference to Kushta Hetu. Till then, stay tuned to this PhD Scholar
Thank you,
webinar series.
Dr. Abhinay,
Yes, yes.
and thank you the entire organizing committee and the coordinators of this particular series of webinar.
Yes.
I thank one and all for your patient hearing. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Sachin.